Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of the Victory Podcast. This episode is going to be about coaching and taking over programs, or coaches if you're a first-time coach in a program. The first coach we have with us today is Coach Anthony Vizakis, Milford High head coach. Anthony took over the program last year,
Yep.
and he led his team to what was the record, Coach?
5-6.
5-6 record. Kind of got the team thrown on his lap, and there was a lot of things that he had to do. And I'm gonna let you take over here and tell your story a little bit, and we can get things kickstarted from here.
Sure. So last year, I actually was named head coach at Milford High School in early June. And for anybody that's coached any sport, you know that's especially football. You need to have a few months more than just 2 or 3 out of a season to get your team prepared, get the mindset, the culture, and everything. So I was offered the job in June. I took it, and right away we hit the ground just trying to catch up. And it seemed like getting the job late, there was a lot of catch-up work. I had to fulfill a staff because half of my staff was gone. So the first thing I did was reach out to a few coaches that I trusted and a few coaches that I knew. Luckily, I was able to secure a couple of guys that came on board. So the first thing for me was surrounding myself with guys I could trust. And I think any coach getting the job is really – you have your network of coaches, so it's really big to keep that network positive. And so getting a staff right away, and then it was just a lot of little things that it wasn't even X's and O's. It was a lot of little in-house cleaning stuff. We ran a youth camp. I ran a passing league, and those are things that maybe not every new coach will do in his first year. But for me, I wanted to keep those things going. So it was a lot of getting that caught up, and a lot of doing the things behind the scenes, checking in with parents, physicals, things that kids needed before they could even step on the field.
Sure, and that's something too. I mean, you started last year at June, which is incredibly late in a sense. So 3 years ago when I got to Bellingham High School, we got in April, and I thought that was extremely late, just getting in April, because they were still running. They were doing some lifting beforehand, but none of the structure was in place. So when we got there in April, we were kind of like, looking around saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? So I can't even imagine getting in at June and then having to put a staff. I mean, we already had a staff somewhat already together. So I can't imagine getting a staff and then getting all the little things like you were just saying and getting going. So, what was the hardest part about getting all that together? Was it the staff? Was it because, essentially you had a couple guys in your back pocket that you wanted initially, but what was the hardest part? Was it the staff? Was it getting the kids rallied up? First thing comes to mind.
It's definitely the staff, because coaching football at any level is such a commitment that it's not like you're just I'm just gonna go coach football. You have to not only plan with family and getting your job in order. I was lucky enough to hire 2 guys that were teachers that had supportive families so that they would be able to coach with me. So the staff was definitely the biggest thing. I actually was lucky because the year before I coached, so I knew the kids. I knew the kids going in, and they were all fired up, which definitely helped. But you never really have your own culture as an assistant coach. The culture definitely comes from the head coach. So it took a little bit of time. It took a little bit of time for the kids to adjust to how we were going to do things. And it was definitely different from the previous coach. So I think that was an adjustment as well.
Yeah, and I like that too, is the culture comes from the head coach, because, you look at any company, the CEO, the culture starts at him. And, and when you have a bad culture, it's all top-down power too. So, when you see that, and I know, Milford's the next town over from when we coach, and I've known you for a while as well. It's you bring that energy too, which, you're younger in a sense, so it's not like, a coach who's just kind of like, I'm just here to coach. It's, you have that fire and you still want to change things and make things different for the program. But leading into that now, and I'll give you an example. When we first took over the staff, the very first thing I wanted, and I made this clear to the head coach and all the assistant coaches too, we need a new feel, right? So the very first thing we did was we got new jerseys, right? We fundraised. We made sure that we got every single kid had a new jersey, because I don't know why, just something mental about seeing a new feel. Like, you get a new helmet, new decal sticker, whatever it may be. It's a new culture, right? It gives you that new feel. So for us, it was the new jerseys. What was it for you guys physically that you had?
Yeah, no, it's actually funny. And I think even last year at a passing league, I brought out a helmet. We changed our decal on our helmets, and it was getting more to our traditional Hawk logo, which was I think I actually brought it out to you. We had a matte black helmet with the Hawk logo on it, and it was kind of like something fresh, something that the kids were excited about. And it was the first step visually, physically, like you were saying. That was the change. So getting the helmets logoed up, getting them changed, got the kids excited right off the bat.
No, and I think that's the biggest thing. Because nothing better than when you show kids his jersey for the first time, they go, they get all hyped up for it, and it's you show them that, and then over the years you progress, right? Hey guys, here's a new jersey. Hey guys, here's our new sticker on the helmet. Here's the new, and I think that keeps the motivation of, you want to show it off in school, you want to show it off on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be for the younger kids. They love that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely, so, and that all kind of goes back to the culture thing. If they're wearing gear that they're proud of, if they're going to wear their football sweatshirt or around town, or if they're going to wear their game jerseys on Friday in school and they're proud to put that on, I mean, that's a culture thing. That's what any coach wants.
Yeah, and no, that's 100% because they want to be proud to wear that Milford sweatshirt around, and you guys went 5-6, but people can still rock that Milford sweatshirt and feel good about being part of the football program,
right.
And they see the vision of what you guys are building, right? And for you to step in that late and even win 5 games is incredible because, leading into my next question here, it's teaching schemes, right? So, what was, I guess, the building block for you to be able to come in and did you run a new scheme, or was it kind of left over from what you guys had before? Teaching your coaches. So I guess let's start with the team first. How did you teach? Actually, let's back up. Let's start with the coaches. How did you manage to get the coaches on board with the scheme, or a lot of hours meeting? Was it they familiar with the pass scheme?
Well, it was kind of, this is funny because from February to late May, the previous head coach and I had been working on implementing a total wing T system from top to bottom, youth to varsity level. And, I was never a wing T guy. That was never my first choice as far as offensive scheme. But the hours that we put in, I bought into it. And we had kids coming in and working with us. So the first thing that I did was I didn't want to change too much scheme-wise, even though I wasn't as confident in the wing T as I thought. On the board, it looked great. So we actually started our first couple of games running the wing T, and then we switched to what I'm more familiar with and comfortable with, and which is more of like a power offense, which is more of a kind of just smash mouth in your face. And when we started to do that, we actually started to win games. Kids got more comfortable. They knew that, okay, this is what coach really wants to do, and it fit the mentality of our players. So it was really interesting. I'm so fortunate that this year I get a whole off season to implement what I want to implement, and we're so far ahead right now. It's crazy from where we were last June.
Yeah, and that's also the biggest thing too is you went into now. When did you switch that wing T offense? Was that halfway through the season, or was it?
We actually we had 3 scrimmage games where we ran the wing T, and it just wasn't working. It wasn't clicking. And again, I think that was partly me being not as confident in the wing T. I'd never run it, and it's not my offense. But we did switch after the first regular season game. So going into week 2 was our first week with our new offense. And then we had lost that game close, but then the next week we won, and we started to really crank up. 5-6 was our overall record, but we won some big games and lost some tough games. And I think the biggest takeaway from not even looking at the record was just that the confidence kids had from week 1 to week 7 to week 8, week 9 was insane. It was they bought in, and they were so excited that at the end of the year we were clicking. They know that's going to start week 1 this year. So
yeah, and if you look at too, you guys were a playoff team.
Yep.
Under the Massachusetts rules, right? You guys were a playoff team, so it wasn't like you came in and you were 5-6. For those who are unfamiliar with the Massachusetts playoff system, you play 7 games and they take your record after 7 games, and that's what you play your playoffs the remaining 3 or 4 games, right?
Correct.
So the fact that you were able to get in under, going into the playoffs as a mid-level seed after having the flipping offense, after getting your team in June.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's probably one of the bigger lessons, I guess, from coaching too is I'm sure you were like, all right, let me learn a new system so I can get these kids. We have a lot of power in our backfield, so let's run this wing T or whatever it may be. And I think that's probably one of the best lessons as a coach is like, screw it, let's just stick to our guns and let's let's throw the football a little bit, but let's slam it down your throat.
And again, you got to understand, like, not only was I teaching the kids, but I was teaching the coaches. So in theory, while we were going along, the coaches and I were staying later, and we were getting familiar with the offense. Then we'd have to go teach it the next day. And again, that just all comes down to getting the job late. I mean, I wanted to we had worked so hard and so many hours on the wing T from February to June, like I said, and it was like I wanted to give it a shot because it looked like it would work. And for some teams, it's great. For some teams, it works, but not for the mindset and the culture that I particularly wanted to bring.
Yeah, and just going back to the culture thing, right? So we talked about physically what you changed within the confines of Milford, whether it be the field or whatever it may be. How about morale-wise? What did you do to change that? As far as, did you add any like new chants? Did you? Some people ring the bell in the weight room, right? Is there anything that you guys changed where, we're gonna do this now? Where people are gonna look at us before a game and go, oh damn, like the teams that hoot and holler before. Is there anything like that stuck out?
Yeah, we
pre-game or post-game?
Definitely. We I'm a military guy, and I like bringing things in from the military. So before every game, we would have a flag bearer. If they had a good week of practice, they would be able to run out and lead the team with the American flag.
I like that.
We adopted the term Charlie Mike, which in the military stands for continue mission. And that was kind of a rallying cry that we had set in motion, that nothing is ever going to go perfect. There's always going to be struggle. There's always going to be something that's going to make you push harder than you can. And if you and in the military, if there's a mission that's going south, or if something isn't going as to plan, which they prepare for, it's Charlie Mike. It's to continue the mission.
Continue mission. I like that.
That was those were the two big things, and the kids really liked it.
Yeah, and that's cool, and especially you give them something to take home, right? So that senior class was the first one that had the Charlie Mike and the CM to take home with them.
Yeah.
Any new things this year that you're thinking about, or you've been flirting around? I know we talked previously, and I'm going to bring it up in a minute, but I want to see if you have anything new that you want to bring in.
I got a couple of things that are new, not really finalized yet, so I'm not gonna kind of give any secrets away, but I definitely have a few things up my sleeve that the kids are gonna really, I think they're gonna really love, and it's gonna kind of intensify just the whole aspect of this is and I told the kids this is the closest thing to the military or to war that they're gonna ever experience legally. In high school. And you know what, that's kind of a cool thing, because the bond that you build when you're playing football, you're playing this game, it's unlike any other, because it's physical, because it's mentally draining, it's because you have to do it when you're tired and when you're at your weakest. Anybody can be great when they're feeling good or when things are going great, but it's the times when you're not, you don't think you can go another down, or you don't think you can make another play. It's those times that really test your character, and again, bringing it back to the culture, Charlie Mike, continue the mission, and that's why we train, that's why we get ready, and that's why they play. So
yeah, no, and that's cool. And I think, the point I was bringing up earlier about what me and you talked about was, I've always wanted to, if we could ever, have the budget to do it, and I think just having the blow up helmet in the end zone with the kids running out with the CO2 guns, I think that. I hate to call myself a new school coach, because I was brought up like the old school ways. I was brought up, work, and even college, it was just work. Like that's what it was. It was just work, and everything was old school discipline. And I remember when I first got into coaching, I was like, I'm never gonna be like a player's coach, right? Never gonna be a player's coach. But you start to see what makes certain kids tick. Hey, some kids get hyped off of nothing. They just get in their own minds and they work. Some kids need that music to get them going. Some kids need that atmosphere of thousands of people going nuts with the CO2 guns. You're running out of the tunnel, and and you see the videos online. But like, it's those little things where I think some coaches say this is our way and this is it, or more conscious coaches play to their players and say, hey, what's going to get them going to push them that extra mile? And if it's something as little as them running out of a tunnel with the CO2 gun going nuts, with Metallica banging in the background, it's it's a couple $1,000s, but if it's going to get you to that next level, and I know all this stuff, games aren't won before the game, right? But some fights are won before the game where the people are psyched out and they're like, whoa, okay, you got these guys coming out of the tunnel. Okay, and then, little things with the coin toss, how you dressed, little things like that. But ultimately it comes down to scheme, right? So, and that's why I wanted to touch on scheme, just because, it matters in that sense of, getting it in as fast as you can. And you saw yourself change week 2. It's like, all right, we're doing this now. Was there any positions that you had to switch? Like, was there a kid that you said, hey, you're perfect for the wing tee, but my new system, I got to move you here? Was there any of that, or was it the personnel was able to stay mostly the same?
Actually, our quarterback, who started the first 3 scrimmages in week 1, moved to tight end. He was a bigger kid. He was more of a runner, but we moved him around, and our new system was a 20 personnel where we could run ISO, power, counter, toss. In a 20 personnel where we could throw it as well, and so it was good for kids to kind of get that change. So there were a few personnel changes, but it all made sense, and it all made those kids better. So.
Yep. Oh, awesome. Yeah, and that's, it's just getting – I think the biggest thing is when you get kids moving, they got to think more, right? It's like, hey, you're quarterback this week, you're tight end next week, you're wide receiver this week. They're thinking, and smarter kids can pick it up. So, I mean, that's good when you guys were like, hey, we need you at tight end. And that's a credit to the kid, too, to swallow the ego and say, I used to be the man at quarterback, now I'm playing tight end, so – but, that's when you start winning football games. You're a playoff team. I don't want to bring up the story, but – the playoff, you guys lost by what, a field goal, was it?
We lost by 2, and it was against a team called Duxbury, who was number 14 in the state. We were number 53. We went down to Duxbury. Nobody gave us a chance to win. I think it was actually almost a joke. People were putting it off as a joke, and we actually had a kickoff return for a touchdown callback on a bogus holding call. Fun fact, the coach actually called me the next day and said, hey, coach, we got away with one last night. And our kicker, who's number 1 in Massachusetts, probably number 1 in New England as far as kicking and punting goes, boomed a field goal which went right over the right upright. And if by rule, if it goes over the upright, it's good. But the ref on that side didn't see it that way. We had an end zone shot that, I mean, it was So we lost 9-7, and it was our kids just played their tails off, and it was almost like it was bittersweet because we had them, and we advanced into the playoffs a little bit farther. But I think that was the first round. That was the first round. Yep.
The first round. So you carry that momentum from the new offense, knew everything, and it happens like that, which is crazy.
Yeah, we were coming off 2 exciting wins from the week before, and the team had really good confidence, and we were rolling. And it, I think they knew after we hung tough with a team like Duxbury, who's very good, and they've been dominant for years and years in Massachusetts. I think they looked at each other and said, all right, we got this now. Because after that, we played a team, Holliston, and they're another perennial Super Bowl, 3-time Super Bowl, and we thumped those guys at our place because the kids were just like, you know what, we're not rolling over. We were confident, and they played with confidence. They were playing faster, more physical, and that's just going to carry over to this year.
And that's just a huge testament of not thinking, because the kids aren't thinking it. By that point in the season, they're not thinking anymore. What do I do? No, they break the huddle, and I got this guy. Let's roll, right? And that's the best feeling is when you break the huddle and let's rock. Like, you don't got to think, you don't got to do anything. Just play football, and that's fast football is the best football.
Oh, it's the best.
It's just yeah. So all right, so I want the theme of this podcast. I want to keep it relatively short, right?
Sure.
And I talked to Anthony before the show here. I want to keep this just content packed. We could talk for hours here, but that's why I'm just firing questions at him left and right. But I want to wrap up with this too. What is your thoughts just on the youth? You mentioned it in the first 5 minutes, I think, on how you guys got the youth involved in camps. How important is it for a new coach to come in and get adapted to the town, the youth program? Because you see some coaches come in and immediately they focus on their guys and that's it. You were fortunate enough to be an assistant beforehand, but what is the impact that you've had joining with the youth and getting them acclimated to the system, what you guys do. You show them the locker room, like everything else. So, I just want to get your thoughts on that.
So I would highly recommend, if any new coach is getting into some place, that you have to connect with the youth program. You have to make connections and relationships with the coaches, the parents, and the kids. And what we did first was we started a youth camp. It was a 4-day youth camp. The kids came in. We had 70 kids last year. We're up to 89, and we try and cut it off at 80. Kids are just calling, and parents are calling. The kids want to be there. They said they had a great time last year. And you're right. We almost indoctrinate them into the system right away. We bring them into the locker room. We show them where the kids dress. We show them, the helmets that they wear. We show them the jerseys that they wear. And we always say to them, this is where you'll be in a few years. Envision yourself here. And we bring them up to the weight room and we show them, this is where our guys lift. This is where our guys train. And it plants that seed. And especially in a town where in Milford, where we could potentially lose kids to St. John's or BVT, and other high schools go through this as well. You want to keep those core kids. And one thing I did last month was go down to the middle school during lunch. I saw the 8th graders, and I had an 8th grade sign up. We had 38 kids sign up from the 8th grade. And now let's say 10 or 15 of those kids don't decide to play. Well, we're still in the 20 range where I'd like our freshman team. Anything over 20 is great for a freshman program. Yep. You definitely have to make relationships with the head coaches. So I run a youth clinic for the coaches, and I let them know what we're doing at the high school level, and I'd like it to be run at the youth level. So the kids they're already running the system that they're going to be running when they become freshmen, sophomore, junior, senior. And this is my second year doing that, and the coaches really appreciate taking the time to do that. So you have to, and it takes time, it takes energy and effort. We have the youth kids come practice with us during a couple of the weeks of the season. If they have a 5:30 practice, we'll push practice back, and then they'll come to the end, or they'll watch our live period.
That's great.
Yeah, it's super important to just have them be around and see, this is where you're going to be in a couple of years. This is where we want you. They want to feel like, okay, the high school football coach is watching me play, and
exactly.
So that's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's big too, and just being able to supplement the youth kids and give them a taste of what it's like to play, Milford football or Bellingham football or whatever it may be. It's my biggest thing, what I started doing when we first got there, and I kind of did this just because I wanted kids to know each other, but I would stop whatever we were doing. If it was sprints in the off season, it was mostly off season. I didn't do it too much during the season, but usually in the off season, I'll cut the music in the weight room so it goes dead quiet, and Johnny, what's his name? Mike, what's his name? And it's all older kids to younger kids, and I'll do it sometimes younger kids to older kids, right? So it forces, and if they get it wrong, older kids wrong, right? And it's a way just to force the older kids to, not just push little kids aside. Oh, he's in 8th grade. What do I care about him for? He's not. And that way, when the older kid starts to learn the younger kid's name, he sees them in the hallway. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? And it makes the younger kid feel good. And it's all a mental process, but starting from the top down, it's learn the younger kid's name, the 8th grader, 7th grader who's coming in, to make him start to feel part of the program. And I think, and that's the reason why I brought this question up, because I think that aspect of it is big. If you want to sustain your program to be, I'm sure you're not looking to be one and done in Milford and get out of there, right? So a lot of coaches who are looking to build that program, you need that foundation, especially from the 9th, 10th grade, who are going to be your seniors in 2, 3, 4 years. But something simple as this, what's his name? His name's Dylan. Oh,
right.
Awesome.
Right.
Good job. All right. And the kid sits there. He feels good. The kid who guessed it feels good. And then we can continue on what we're doing. So, I think that plays a huge part in building and sustaining the program.
Absolutely. The kids have to feel valued. They have to feel like if they're a sophomore, they may not play much on Friday night, but they're not just a tackling dummy during the week, and that they don't matter. Yep. Sometimes your scout team kids, you got to love up a little bit. And we definitely do that because every kid that's saying to their parents, I'm going to go play football, Mom. I want to go play for Coach Vizakis, or I want to go play for Coach Haddad. And they're putting their bodies and their time and everything on the line. And we owe it to them as coaches to do the absolute most that we can to give them the best experience that they have.
Exactly. That's perfectly put. Perfectly put. So my last question to close out. scheme or players? What do you think is more valuable?
Oh,
A good scheme. We didn't rehearse this question or nothing, so I'm hitting you with a hard one right now. So, is the scheme more valuable, or is the players' athletic ability more valuable?
Okay, so here's my answer to that. If your scheme matches the players that you have, you'll be successful. If you want to run your scheme and you're very stubborn and you're not running the scheme that matches the players that you have, I don't think you'll be as successful. I think you got to know your kids, you got to know the talent that you have, and you've got to build your scheme. Keep your core fundamental principles in place, but you've got to build your scheme around your players.
Awesome. Perfect. We'll end with that. Coach Anthony Vizakis, head coach at Milford High School. I'm going to be on the lookout for you this year, Coach. We unfortunately don't play you, but we wish you the best of luck, and thank you for joining us on the podcast here. So episode 1 featuring Coach Anthony Vizakis.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
I'll see you guys
later. All right.